I'm my favorite rapper alive. Since my favorite rapper banned me from Shade 45, I wonder.
I spray the gat at your ride. Sean Price, the greatest rapper alive.
Best rapper alive. Hear that line used less often. I am not top 10, more like top 3. I am not 2, cause nobody could top me.
Probably be murdered for this that I said. I bring the real, be a legend, breathing the dead.
Peace to Biggie and Pac, cause they really were hot. Rap game heavy hitters, it's a shame they no longer with us.
I love hip hop, I ain't even probably the best lyricist alive. Tell the squad, stop sleeping.
The earth ain't big enough for both of us, you gotta get done. They say they smoking top 5s, but you ain't burnt up the one.
Watch your mouth, don't ever step out of line. LL Cool J, greatest of all time.
Who is the greatest rapper of all time? We have discussed this topic numerous times on this channel already over the past 5 years. And even on my old channel from 2008, I was constantly sharing my lists and debating people on various social media sites and forums. But this time I've decided to do it a little different. Instead of compiling a top 50, top 100 or top 200 list that you can roast me for in the comments, I let you guys do the ranking yourself, in the biggest tournament of rap history. I picked 1024 rappers from the past 48 plus years of this culture and prepared the brackets and polls all by myself. The groups and matchups were created randomly, and the voting process started once the preparations were complete. My OG subscribers will remember the last tournament I did in 2017. This tournament is 4 times the size of that. So I decided to divide this tournament into 5 parts, which means it will be a 5-episode video series. The first 4 parts will include bracket 1 to bracket 32, and the last episode will be about the finals. So let's jump right into it and take a look at the results. Alright, so for the first matchup in bracket number 1, we had the legendary Tragedy Gaddafi against Asim Williams. You guys voted for Tragedy, and I definitely would have done the same. Deacon the Villain from the legendary group Canon Linguists above Scory. Again, wise decision. Vest Air from the duo Cannibal Ox against Cuban Doll. Cuban Doll is trash in my opinion, and Cannibal Ox on the other hand is extremely underrated and underappreciated. Especially their debut album The Cold Vein, which is definitely worth checking out. Alright, Spice One defeated Sa Baby. This shouldn't be a surprise either. Spice One is, as most of you know, a legend from the 90s with countless West Coast classics. Sa Baby's music doesn't do anything for me. Elucid from Arm & Hammer over Lil Ugly Mane. Agree with this one too. Oh, next we have Big L against Larry O from Real Life. They were both very skilled in my opinion, but of course Big L is in a league of his own. So I agree once again with your ranking. Amine versus Left Eye from the legendary R&B group TLC. I can see why you would pick Amine over her. Left Eye didn't really specialize in rapping. But this is definitely debatable. Amine has a lot of songs that are cringy and trash to me, especially his earlier ones.
Bad things, funny as hell, thick as fuck, oh my god.
But he has improved quite a bit in my opinion, just like Tyler the Creator. I considered both of them trash at one point. Speaking of the devil, Tyler the Creator versus Cash Outs, which many consider a one-hit wonder of the early 2010s. Like I said earlier, Tyler improved a lot over these past few years, with great projects such as Flower Boy, Ego and Call Me If You Get Lost. And I always give props where props are due, so even if I call you trash at one point, doesn't mean that you can't reinvent yourself and change my opinion on you. So yeah, Tyler is easily better than a one-hit wonder. Mario Judah above Spinner Bands. Not really a fan of either one of them, but rapping-wise, I would probably disagree with you. Spinner Bands would probably win in a rap battle if they ever went at each other, as his lyrics are a little more sophisticated than Mario Judah's in my opinion. Shay Noir versus MC Trouble. This one is actually very close for me, as both are incredible MCs in my opinion. Shay might be a slightly better lyricist, and she definitely had a longer lasting career than MC Trouble, as she passed away in 1991. She only put out one EP and an album. Shay on the other hand had the chance to work on multiple projects, some of which I praised on this channel. But I would say that MC Trouble had a better flow, energy and delivery, so it all boils down to preference. Juice WRLD above Danny Myers, come on now. Danny Myers would easily slaughter Juice WRLD, not only in a battle but in any competitive rapping contest where you can demonstrate your skills. Punchlines, rhyme schemes, the overall complexity of the lyrics, Juice can't compete in any of those criteria.
Too many pills got me hyperventilating. I was up in hell trying to dance up with Satan.
I am winning this battle. That's certainly undebatable. I'll take a power line, run voltage through his body, then tell his mom that he's currently unavailable.
Baby, I'm stuck in my ways. It's been a couple of days. I could fuck you for days. Guess I'm stuck in my ways.
I'm one man. That can kill an army. Look how I do, squads. If there is a weakest nigga in your crew, it would be you, God. Do squad.
Bending shit, I got that avatar bender money. Man, that bitch is on my dick like Playboy Bunny. She geeked up off the molly like the Energizer Bunny.
Rip up your daughter's spelling test, and that's the one she got them all right. Oh, you want a brawl, right? Bitch, nigga, don't even play yourself. I'll cut you into so many pieces, your funeral be on a conveyor belt.
The hip-hop landscape is a battleground. You can't call yourself the best rapper unless you can lyrically defend yourself and prove that you're more than just a vocalist with great production and an enjoyable voice. But most rap fans value catalog and hits more than the actual rapping ability, which is unfair and insufficient as they're automatically disqualifying battle rappers and freestyle MCs. Anyway, Gucci Mane over Lil Romeo. Both not the most skilled rappers when it comes to lyrics and technical abilities, but impact, influence and relevancy wise, Gucci Mane takes this easily. And I also agree with the remaining ones in this round. Big Mo over Young Lean, Shaheem over Kirko Banks, Lil Kim over Princess Nokia, and Charlie Clips over Drew Down. Round 2, Tragedy Gaddafi ranked higher than Deacon the Villain. This one is very close in my opinion. But I have to give it to Tragedy Gaddafi. His impact on East Coast hip-hop was huge. He was a member of the legendary Juice Crew, rapping since 1985. In his prime, he was an amazing storyteller who influenced almost every 90s rapper from Queensbridge, including Nas, Prodigy and Havoc from Mobb Deep, and also Capone and Noriega. So I would definitely pick Tragedy Gaddafi. Next you voted for Spice One over Vast Air from Cannibal Ox. Picking either one would be fine in my opinion, both are top tier MCs. Vast Air might be a better lyricist, but Spice One has way more classic rap anthems and a larger catalog in general. He was also more influential and more important to the coast he's representing. You can't speak about the history of West Coast hip hop without mentioning Spice One. Alright, so next we have Big L winning against Elucid from Arm & Hammer. Both very capable and skilled artists, but of course, impact and influence-wise, it's not even debatable. In terms of punchlines, flows, creativity and song-making ability, I would also have to give it to Big L. And yes, Tyler the Creator is definitely better than Amine. I'm not sure how to feel about Amine in general. He does have some cool songs, but it's not enough for me to put him in a top 500 list. MC Trouble over Mario Judah. Agree with this one too, not even debatable. Juice WRLD defeating Gucci Mane is very unexpected, as Gucci Mane is regarded as one of the most influential veterans for the current generation of rap. Along with T.I. and Young Jeezy, he helped to make trap music more popular in the 2000s and 2010s. So you were either convinced that Juice WRLD had a better discography, or that he had more advanced rapping skills in general. I'm not really a fan of either one of them, and don't really like their music that much. But I would say that Juice WRLD is superior in terms of pen game and delivery. In the next matchup we had Big Mo against Shaheem, and you let Mo win for whatever reason. Shaheem does not only have the better discography with 2 great albums and 1 classic, he was also the more skilled rapper in general. He was just a teenager when he started, but he was respected as a lyrical equal among adults, often being referred to as a child prodigy, with a debut album out by the age of 16. Shaheem rapped, freestyled and collaborated with the Wu-Tang Clan, Big Daddy Kane, Jay-Z, Biggie, Tupac and many other legends in the game. Not many rappers can hold their own in a freestyle session with Pac, Big and Kane. Jay-Z even looked up to him in admiration at one point. So no, I wouldn't put Big Mo above Shaheem, that's for sure. Lil' Kim over Charlie Clips is debatable. Lyrically, I would say that Charlie is superior, being the battle MC that he is, but Kim was also a great lyricist at one point, on top of her impact on the game and her great discography. She also proved us that she can lyrically defend herself, with multiple disses and subliminals aimed at rappers like Tupac, Foxy Brown, Nicki Minaj, Eve, and other rappers in 3 different decades in hip-hop. In a live battle though, I don't think Lil' Kim would stand a chance, but on records she might be able to produce a better diss, mainly because Charlie Clips lacks a discography and sticks to live battles and freestyles. But it's all speculation, of course. Both are incredible MCs. Alright, so in the third round you picked Spice One over Tragedy Gaddafi, which is debatable due to both sharing about the same amount of influence on each respective coast, and also around the same level of technical skills. Spice One probably has the better discography though, so I would probably pick him in this round. Then we have Big L taking out Tyler, don't have any complaints here, but Juice WRLD beating MC Trouble is debatable. Juice will probably influence the game more than MC Trouble ever has, but she might have been a better lyricist overall. On the other hand, she only had one album that most people in hip-hop don't even know of. Lil' Kim beating Big Mo is also agreeable, at least when talking about her old projects and her skill level from the 90s and the 2000s. Anyway, in the semi-finals of Bracket 1, you made Big L win against Spice One, which I definitely agree with. But then you picked Juice WRLD over Lil' Kim, which is laughable. This would mean that Juice WRLD is in the top 64 rappers of all time. You know, I get it. He passed away and now people all of a sudden think he's one of the GOATs, a legend. But Juice was mediocre at best when we're strictly talking about rapping. I don't care about singing, creating melodies, or having great production. That's not even part of the conversation. Lil' Kim is a far better lyricist than Juice WRLD, has far more classic songs, not only with Biggie and Junior Mafia, but on multiple solo albums that she released in the 90s and 2000s. And she's also more influential in general. She held the Queen of Hip Hop title for multiple decades. You can't really compare the 4 years Juice WRLD was rapping with Lil' Kim's 27-year-long career. I just can't imagine Juice WRLD beefing with Tupac or going toe-to-toe with Biggie for the best verse on each collaboration. Especially when most of his lyrics haven't aged well. Go watch my last video where he brags about drugs not being able to hurt him. He made like 10 songs about that, and it's painful to listen to now that he passed.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but the drugs won't hurt me, the drugs won't hurt me. Swervo told me stop popping them Xannies for a flat line. I said hold on bro, wait, I'ma be fine. Sometimes it feels like I can't die. If it wasn't for the pills, I wouldn't be here. But if I keep taking these pills, I won't be here. Tory with the perks, take too many, feel like I'ma die. Ay. I can't go out like that, I ain't tryna make my mama cry. Ay. I told my mama I'm here to stay, no she won't catch me dead. Perky got me itching like an anthill. Drugs killing me softly, Lord hell. We ain't making it past 21.
But at least you didn't put him above Big L in the finals. This means that Juice WRLD will be in the top 64 and Big L in the top 32 bracket, which we will get to once we're done with the remaining 31 brackets. So in the second group you picked Nipsey Hussle over Slim Jesus, which was a wise decision cause else I would have cancelled the whole tournament. And DMC is definitely better than Jaden Smith.
Damn homie, in high school you was the man homie, the fuck happened to you?
But then you picked Jermaine Dupri over Bus Driver, who has the second largest vocabulary in hip hop, twice as large as J. Cole's and 3 times as large as NF's. Dupri on the other hand is like a Walmart version of Puff Daddy. Great producer, mediocre label boss, and that's about it. Elder Sensei definitely better than Tierra Whack. But then you picked Lil Durk over Fat Lip from the Far Side. A legendary group that has 2 classic albums, Bizarre Ride to the Far Side, which came out in 1992, and Lab Cab in California, which came out in 95. Lil Durk doesn't even have a classic album. He's one of the most generic trap artists of all time, with a very repetitive subject matter. I mean, just look at his song titles. Let Him Know, Nobody Knows, Betcha Didn't Know, I Don't Know, I Know, All I Know, How I Know, and Don't Know Me.
I know one nigga who love to kill, but he get faded first. I know a nigga died with a name, couple of his niggas still ain't slapped. I know a bitch who do whatever for some Valentinos. I know a nigga who killed up half the city. I know some niggas who say that they took down the city, but niggas be lacking a lot. I know some niggas who hustle but quick, cause they was doing this shit for too long. I know a killer who turned the city up, be snitching. I know some niggas paying rent, doing fill-ups. I know a couple divas that kill a secret. I know some niggas who ain't told and they won't steal. I know a nigga from the hood, he ain't serving no scale. I know some niggas don't take care of the kids, they don't call him daddy. I know some killers from out west, they keep them Glocks. I know a nigga who ain't did it, but he claimed to buy. I know some kills who like to scam when they just got some free time. I know some scammers who be in the streets, they working D-line. I know a rich nigga that'll kill you for some ball, man.
Anyway, then you put CeeLo Green from Goody Mob above MCJB from JJ Fett, which I agree with. You also put Styles P from The Lox above Bia, Roxanne Shante over 2K Baby, Slug from the group Atmosphere above Shorty Shorty, Don Toliver above Fatboy, NBA YoungBoy above Silento, Tupac above Kodeka, and Sticky Fingers above Fresher. But then you put Shorty Low above Tory.
I'm the man, and you know that I got cash.
Did you seriously just put one of the founding members of the group D4L, which is one of the worst rap groups in existence, above a real lyricist like Tory?
Shout it, what it do? Thought it was happening. Been hair stripes, I don't know about you.
I highly doubt that he was able to out-rap Tory. I mean, he struggled against T.I. when they were beefing with each other, and T.I. is not even a lyricist. MGK over Lanez, arguably the worst rapper in history. And Joey Badass above the one-hit wonder I Love Memphis. Can't really disagree with that. Round 2. DMC from Run DMC won against Nipsey Hussle. He can't really compete with DMC when it comes to overall status in hip-hop, influence, impact, and discography overall. And CeeLo Green finally got Lil Durk's whack ass the hell out of here, as he should. And Styles P got more votes than Roxanne Shante, which is understandable knowing how skilled he is. But it's sad to see that she's getting kicked out of the tournament so quick. She was a member of the legendary Juice Crew and battled KRS-One, who was a member of Boogie Down Productions at one point before Scott LaRock got shot. She also battled Sparky D, the real Roxanne, and also the group UTFO, which was probably the first rap beef in history. So yeah, just wanted to mention that real quick before we move on. Cause next we have another questionable pick, Don Toliver over Slug from Atmosphere. Are we even listening to the same artists? You're gonna tell me that Don Toliver can out-rap a lyricist and a battler like Slug? Or that he can make a better album than God Loves Ugly? Nobody ever won a rap battle just by having great melodies. Don Toliver can sing and make great hooks, but that's about it. But let's move on.
Believe it or not, love me or hate me, YoungBoy is Tupac, nigga.
Tupac versus Tupac. The winner is of course Tupac. Then we have Sticky Fingers from Onyx, who finally eliminated Shorty Low. And lastly, Joey Badass above MGK, which shouldn't be a surprise to you as MGK's catalog is trash. I had him on my worst rappers list even before he got bodied by M, and before he switched genres. Round 3 started off great with DMC finally getting rid of Jermaine Dupri, Styles P beating CeeLo Green, Tupac taking out Don Toliver, but Joey Badass above Sticky Fingers is debatable in my opinion. I can agree with this if we're strictly talking about lyrics, although Sticky Fingers is able to spit amazing verses too, like on Remember Me from the Marshall Mathers LP, where he out-rapped Eminem on his own song. I don't think Joey could ever do the same. Sticky also made better music in my opinion. Back the Fuck Up, All We Got Is Us, and Shut 'Em Down were all amazing albums. I personally prefer them over Joey's catalog, but of course this is all subjective. I don't really go back to Joey's catalog that much, especially his last album from 2017, which was kinda disappointing for me. Onyx has at least 5 songs that are worth being on the top 100 rap songs list, those being Slam, Shut 'Em Down, Last Days, Throw Your Guns, and also The Worst with the Wu-Tang Clan. I probably wouldn't put any songs by Joey in such a list, but that's just me. Flow, energy and impact wise, I would also give it to Sticky, and I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like Joey kind of fell off a little. Anyway, in the semifinals you picked DMC over Styles P, In terms of impact, influence, and originality, and what they have done for the culture, I would definitely agree with this, but rapping-wise, Styles P is superior in my opinion. I don't think DMC can out-rap him, but he was one of the most influential rappers ever. Together with Run and Jam Master Jay, they changed the sound of the genre drastically in the mid-80s, and started what they called the new school hip-hop movement in like 83, 84, together with LL Cool J. Run DMC gave us 4 classic albums, those being Run DMC, King of Rock, Raising Hell, and Tougher Than Leather. And yes, Styles P can't really compete with that. But he could easily out-rap him in my opinion. Then you picked Pac over Joey Badass, which is objectively the right choice when it comes to impact, influence, the status in hip-hop, and also the importance to the culture. In terms of catalog, I can't really put any of Joey Badass's projects against Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, or Machiavelli the Don Killuminati, The 7 Day Theory. Joey's 2 albums are on the same level of Pac's first 2 albums in my opinion. Delivery, energy, and flow-wise, I would also give it to Pac. As far as lyrical content goes, it's of course debatable. I feel like Pac has more quotables, and his lyrics overall are more impactful. I mean, his music gets played at almost every protest against police brutality, like during the George Floyd protests, where they played the song Changes from 1998, and people actually had quotes from him on their protest signs. That song in particular even climbed back on the iTunes charts 22 years after its release, 24 years after he passed. So yeah, his lyrics have aged like fine wine in my opinion. Pac made classics about a large variety of topics, not just club bangers. He made political songs, conscious songs like Keep Your Head Up, about the abuse black women face in society, personal and heartfelt songs like Dear Mama, songs about police brutality, death, religion, and he even made enough classic battle records to release them as an entire album. And everything he said sounded authentic and believable. Can't say the same thing about Joey. He often sounds pretentious and fake deep in my opinion.
One-on-one battle, I'll flame Pac.
I don't think so. Could you battle the Notorious B.I.G., Nas, Jay-Z, Lil Kim, Mobb Deep, Gino XL, Ice Cube, the whole Junior Mafia clique, and basically half of New York, all at once, in just a couple of months? Because that's what Pac did.
Any of you niggas from New York that wanna bring it, but we ain't singing, we bringing drama. Fuck you and your motherfucking mama.
What is a Joey Badass compared to all the names I gave you? That's like calling yourself a champion in boxing without having won professional fight. And then you're calling out Mike Tyson, while having your standbase supporting you in the comments. The last 4 years he spent doing little to nothing. Pac's career after the release of his first album lasted just as long as Joey's hiatus, and look what he has accomplished in that time. He still has hundreds of unreleased songs and released more music after he passed than while he was alive. And all of those songs are still being played today. Again, I'm not trying to bash him, he's actually one of the dopest rappers of the past decade. But that Pac comparison he made was just unnecessary and inappropriate in my opinion. Especially back then, when every whack rapper was disrespecting Pac almost on a weekly basis. But my troll video about him was also unnecessary, so whatever.
I already know I'm a better rapper than Tupac is.
Back to the tournament. We had DMC and Pac in the finals, and you guys picked Pac as the winner. This is accurate in my opinion. In the third bracket you picked Andre Nicotina over Sheek Louch from the Lux. If we only look at their solo catalog, their originality and their recognition value, I can see why you would pick Andre. Sheek is more known for his material with Jadakiss and Styles P, even though he was kind of in the shadow of those two in terms of popularity and skills. But I would say that Sheek is still a better lyricist than Andre, and in a battle I would put my money on him. Next we have DOC winning against Young LA, and ODB from the Wu-Tang Clan beating Ayo from Ayo and Teo. Those were definitely the right choices in my opinion. But then you have Chief Keef over Acrobatic from the Perceptionists.
This ain't it, Chief!
Acrobatic could battle 100 of him in a row, and still wouldn't lose once. I don't care what you say. Call me an old man. Chief's raps are meaningless and repetitive. Hearing one song from him is like hearing his entire catalog. You're not learning anything new from sitting through his albums and his million mixtapes.
You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers.
I'm asking you
You
a
ain't been
question.
doing the education.
Forget about freestyling, he can't even recite his own lyrics.
Ashes on my true shit I don't like. Ashes on my true shit I don't like. I had to take them off, and they was all white. Had to take them off, and they was all white. Hey, dude.
Can't even rap for 20 seconds straight and his fans call it the freestyle of the year. Anyway, J-Life versus Willie the Kid. Both underrated, but Willie has a slightly better pen game, so I would probably pick him. Megan Thee Stallion.
Who?
Stallion? Male horse. Interesting. Well, he or she defeated 645 AR. And this shouldn't be a surprise to you. You know, Megan is an animal. And the other guy, well... And yes, Don't Trip is also better than Plies. The matchup between ScHoolboy Q and Run from Run DMC was a little unfortunate though, as ScHoolboy Q got kicked out in the first round. Run is a legend, somebody who has his own chapter in the hip-hop history books. Q can't even come close. YNW Melly and Xavier Wolf are both trash, so I don't care who's winning. But I disagree with YG being better than Hellraiser from Sons of Men. He is a mediocre at best lyricist and doesn't have any variety in his songs. Most of them sound the same if you ignore the beat. Then we have Lord Jamar versus Uncle Luke. Always preferred Brenubian over 2 Live Crew. Lil B over Stack Bundles is ridiculous, knowing that he has produced some of the worst sounding rap music in history.
I'ma fuck your bitch, nigga. I'ma fuck your hoe, nigga. Twumps in my bag.
That was, by the way, his biggest hit, and it wasn't even posted on his own channel. Cray Sean, who was a one-hit wonder that I didn't even include in this tournament, helped him out a little, just so that he can get a measly 6 million views. Even I have more views than that. An irrelevant one-hit wonder with a bigger fanbase than quote-unquote the most influential rapper of the early 2010s. He's said to have a cult-like fanbase, which is laughable and ironic at the same time, because today he can't even get 70,000 views on his whole mixtape. He dropped another mixtape just 3 days ago, and it only got 10,000 views. Where's this cult-like fanbase everybody's talking about? Even I get more views than that, in an hour, even though I haven't posted a video in like 2 months. I'm a nobody, and I'm doing more numbers than him. I guess I have a cult-like fanbase too, so shout out to everybody who's watching. You can make a million excuses, but Stack Bundles is worlds better than him. But let's move on. You made the right choice with Eazy-E winning against Baby Smooth, but I disagree with 2C being better than Mano. I admit, Mano is far from creative, and his songs aren't the most sophisticated pieces of art, but 2C's music is unbearable for me. I disagree with G.O.A.T being better than Link Q. I feel like she's the better lyricist and more original in general. But music-wise, of course he is a part of the Wu-Tang clan, and they gave us dozens of classic songs for our playlists. So I would say it's debatable. But I agree with your ranking for Lil Fame and Mia X. And I also agree with your rankings in round 2. DOC over Andre Nicotina, ODB over Chief Keef, J-Live over Megan Thee Stallion, Run over Don't Trip, YG over YNW Melly, Lord Jamar over Lil B, Eazy-E above 2C, and G.O.A.T over Lil Fame. In round 3 you picked ODB over DOC, which I can agree with. Then you had Run from Run DMC over J-Live, which is factual, and YG over Lord Jamar, which is bullshit. YG is a guest in the House of Hip Hop. I mean, YG is a guest in Lord Jamar's house, plus he's not as skilled as Lord Jamar. And music-wise, I don't think YG can ever put a project out that is on the level of Brenubians. And Eazy-E beating G.O.A.T.
This self-explanatory.
In the semifinals we had ODB defeating Run from Run DMC, which is debatable. In terms of impact and the overall status in hip-hop, Run would be the right choice. And Eazy-E beating YG needs no explanation, I think. He also won in the finals against ODB, and I would have ranked it the same way, to be honest. his impact and overall influence on hip-hop is far greater. I would have also put my money on E in case of a battle on records. And his solo discography is also superior to ODB's in my opinion. In terms of group projects, it's of course debatable. Straight Outta Compton and Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers are both top 10 rap albums of all time. You can check out my video on that if you want. But anyway, fourth bracket. It started off with Chris Rivers, the son of Big Pun, beating Cash Doll, Large Professor from Main Source beating Ghostmane, Scoop from Das FX beating Guilty Simpson, Lovebox Starski beating Homeboy Sandman, and Xzibit beating Zilla Kami. And I agree with you on all of those picks. Except maybe the Lovebox Starski and Homeboy Sandman one when it comes to technical skills and overall rhyming ability. Lovebox specialized in disco music, he wasn't what we call a lyricist, so to speak. But we have to give him credit for inventing the word hip-hop, together with Keith Cowboy. He also helped to popularize the genre in the late 70s and early 80s, so influence and status-wise he's definitely a bigger authority in the culture. Jackboy and Young Bleu are both somewhere between trash and mediocre for me, so I'm not gonna choose a winner here. But Tory Lanez is definitely better than TJ Porter, basically in every aspect of rapping. And I also agree with Paris being better than Saphir. Same with Ludacris and Twisted Insane, No Malice and Quasar, also with Big Pun and Serengeti. But Bankroll Freddie is definitely not better than Odyssey.
Pop it, pop it, pop it, pop it, pop it, pop it.
The next ones were accurate though. Will Smith, aka The Fresh Prince, is indeed better than ESTG. Earl Sweatshirt also better than Big Remo. Bizarre was able to put out more quality material than Sugar Free, but only with the assistance of M, Shady Records and the remaining members of D12. Blackistan beating Trugoy surprised me a little, to be honest. He is a part of the legendary rap group De La Soul and made tons of classic rap songs in the late 80s, 90s and even in the 2000s. Blackistan's catalog is not up to par in my opinion, but his rapping skills are definitely superior. I think Trugoy would get out-rapped and outshined in every comparison that doesn't involve discography, impact and influence. But still, I didn't expect an underground rapper to get more votes than a well-known legend with multiple classics. Anyway, round 2 started off great with Large Professor beating Chris Rivers, Scoop beating Lovebox Starski, Xzibit winning against Jackboy, Tory Lanez beating Paris, Ludacris beating No Malice, Big Pun finally taking out Bankroll Freddie, and Earl Sweatshirt beating Will Smith. But then you let Bizarre beat Blackistan, the guy who just took out Trugoy from De La Soul. So you're saying that Bizarre is better than De La Soul? He was always seen as the weakest link of D12, and it's not difficult to figure out why M refused to collaborate or at least feature him on one of his albums post-Encore.
Yeah, motherfucker. Yeah. We popping pills, motherfucker.
In round 3 we saw Large Professor defeat Scoop from Das FX. Don't know how to feel about this. Both made classics, that's for sure, but after Large Professor left Main Source, he wasn't really able to maintain his relevance in the game as he didn't release another project until 11 years later. It wasn't as great as Breaking Atoms, but he was still an amazing producer and still gave us great tracks on each album, but nothing as influential or groundbreaking as what Das FX was doing on their first 3 albums. They combined intricate rhyme schemes with a fast-paced flow, even if some of the words they used were invented and didn't have much meaning behind it. So you can make arguments for both, but I would probably give this round to Scoop. But I agree with Xzibit being better than Tory Lanez, Pun beating Ludacris and Earl Sweatshirt finally taking out Bizarre. In the semi-finals, Xzibit defeated Large Professor and Pun did the same with Earl Sweatshirt. And in the finals we had Pun defeating Xzibit. So up until now, I agreed with every winner of the individual groups. In bracket 5, most of you voted for T.I. against Illa J. Then you made King Mike C from Forbidden Fruit win against Ill Bill. Same with Mr. Funky from Laws of the Underground against Dusty Locane. Lil Dicky against 42 Dugg, Master Killah from the Wu-Tang Clan against SSG Kobe, OC against the Battle MC Averb, and Cuban Link against Joan Forte. And I agree with you on all of those picks. Juicy J beating A Gala has probably nothing to do with him being the more skilled MC, as both are rather unskilled in my opinion. But Juicy J at least made some impactful music with 3 6 Mafia, so I can agree with giving this round to him. Self-Titled is easily better than Smino on every level. I don't know why the voting is so close. Kid Ink and Trina are both trash to me, so I don't care who wins. We should have disqualified both. I also don't care about Tay-Key beating PA, but PA is at least a dope producer. Tay-Key has always been trash to me. Master Ace indeed a better rapper than Dizzy Wright. Master P also better than Mr. Fab. Same for will.i.am and Idi Amin. And Just Allah is easily better than Young Miami. But then you put Sean Paul from the Young Bloods over Fred the Godson, which is ridiculous. Fred the Godson is a far better lyricist and superior in basically every aspect of rapping, except maybe beat selection. And that was it for the first round. In the second round you picked T.I. over King Mike C, which I can agree with catalog and impact wise, but not in terms of rapping skills. Mr. Funky easily better than Lil Dicky, but OC should have definitely won against Master Killah. Juicy J won this round mainly because of his impact and his status in hip-hop. Kid Ink beating Self-Titled is laughable. You can't tell me that Kid Ink can out-rap anybody, especially not a lyricist like Self-Titled. But Master Ace is easily better than Tay-Key. Master P being better than will.i.am is debatable though. will.i.am made some great music with the Black Eyed Peas, but is considered corny by probably the majority in hip-hop. Master P on the other hand is far from a lyricist. Some might even consider him whack. His flow and delivery is definitely not for everybody, but his impact on the game and his influence is far greater than Will's. And Sean Paul is once again beating lyricists that have far more rapping skills than him. I mean, what did I expect? Anyway, in the third round I agreed with all of your picks. T.I. is a better rapper than Mr. Funky from Lords of the Underground. Master Killah is definitely better than Juicy J. Master Ace obviously better than Kid Ink. I'm kinda disappointed that he made it this far. Same with Sean Paul, who got eliminated by Master P. And in the semifinals you let Master Killah win against T.I. And I can agree with this when talking about lyrics and the overall ability to potentially destroy someone else in the battle. But he does not have the solo catalog of a T.I. And he's also one of the least popular and least important members of the Wu-Tang clan, not necessarily the main ingredient to the group. So I don't know how much praise we can give him for all the classics Wu-Tang has ever produced. At the same time, even if he is the weakest link in the group, excluding G.O.A.T, he's still among the most skilled MCs ever, and I wouldn't necessarily say the same thing about T.I. But I can agree with the next pick 100% without any second thought. Master Ace is definitely a better MC than Master P, basically on every level. But then you made him lose against Master Killah, even though he's a legend who's been blessing us with classics ever since he was part of the legendary Juice Crew. Master Killah's contributions to the Wu-Tang projects can't really compete with anything Master Ace has accomplished, aside from verses like the one on The Mystery of Chessboxing, where he outshined everyone else on the record. Lyrically, I would say they are more or less on the same level. Master Ace has a classic diss track called Acknowledge against Boogeyman and the group The High and Mighty, so he could definitely lyrically defend himself and is higher in hierarchy when it comes to overall importance to the culture. So yeah, Master Ace should have won this bracket in my opinion. We start off with some obvious picks. J.I.D. over Murray, Vin Rock from the legendary Naughty by Nature over Rico Nasty, MC Ren from, in my opinion, the greatest or maybe the second greatest rap group of all time, NWA over Lady Luck, Crazy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony better than whack-ass Quando Rondo, Mac Lethal over Famous Dex, although I have to say that I'm not a fan of either one of them, Khan better than Diamond from Crime Mob, Memphis Bleak better than Ramble, but then you had Jamal over Isham, which I personally disagree with when we're strictly talking about rapping. But production-wise I think Isham's earliest records haven't aged so well compared to Jamal's projects The Untold Truth and Last Chance No Breaks, which for me at least have much more replay value than most of what Isham has released. But we also have to take into consideration that his catalog is 10 times the size of Jamal's. So I'm leaning more towards Isham on this one. Next we have Lil Boosie winning against Taji from the Youngsters by just one vote. Disagree with this one too. Lil Boosie is trash to me. Mac Miller beating Lil Reese shouldn't surprise anybody. Money B from Digital Underground being better than Dress from Black Sheep is debatable. Both have unique flows and styles that I enjoy quite a bit, but Dress is probably the better lyricist. Ab-Soul easily better than OutKast Bottom Got 'Em. Same with Tech and YK Osiris. Fat Joe being the legend that he is, easily better than Sleepy Hollow. And I also agree with Westside Gunn from Griselda being better than Shoestring from the Dayton Family. And finally, Pete Rock, who's both a legendary producer and also a rapper, easily better than Nickelodeon Nick.
Should call me the new Pac, ain't no killer but don't push me. Should call me the new Pac. Get the fuck out of here.
In round 2 you picked J.I.D. over Vin Rock, which I can agree with in terms of lyricism, more specifically in terms of having multi-syllabic rhymes, but he does not have the catalog, the impact, and overall a flow that influenced the whole genre like both Trash and Vin Rock. They did help to reshape East Coast hip-hop in the early to mid-90s, and they're definitely more important to the genre than J.I.D. But I agree with MC Ren's and Crazy Bones' ranking, and also with Khan beating McLethal, Memphis Bleek beating Jamal, Mac Miller beating Lil Boosie, and also Ab-Soul beating Money B. The last two of this round, Fat Joe definitely better than Tech, and also agree with Westside Gunn being better than Pete Rock. I also agree with all your rankings in round 3. MC Ren definitely better than J.I.D, Khan lyrically superior to Memphis Bleek, Mac Miller music-wise definitely better than Ab-Soul, and Fat Joe is also the better MC compared to Westside Gunn. You also did a great job in the semifinals. MC Ren took out Khan, and Fat Joe defeated Mac Miller. I feel like Fat Joe is a little underappreciated in hip-hop, especially after his beef with 50 Cent. He had great solo projects and also released classics with the legendary supergroup DITC, Diggin' in the Crates, and also with the Terror Squad. Composing the illest hip-hop anthems with legends like Big Pun, Remy Ma, Big L, Lord Finesse, Buck Wild, Diamond D, OC, Showbiz and AG. I don't think Mac Miller could take on a prime Fat Joe, but that's just my opinion. In the finals you picked MC Ren over Fat Joe, which is debatable in my opinion, as both are legends in the game. MC Ren had a difficulty in finding mainstream success and in catching up with the other giants in NWA after the release of the group projects. But he did release 3 enjoyable solo albums in the 90s, plus 1 EP that was more successful than any of his albums combined in terms of sales in the US. Both made great songs over multiple decades. Skill-wise, I would probably give it to Ren when it comes to lyrics, and to Joe when it comes to flow, delivery and energy. In terms of music, I don't think MC Ren's catalog is comparable to Joe's, if we're excluding the group projects. Of course, Straight Outta Compton is better than any album Joe has ever released, even better than his group projects. But Joe never stopped making hits ever since he came out in the 90s. Ren's career started 5 years earlier than Joe's, and he had multiple classics before Joe even started rapping. But his career kind of came to a halt after the 90s, so you can make an argument for both. They are about on the same level for me. In round 7, King Crook defeated Def Jeff, and Rod Wave took out Scrim from the Suicide Boys. Not a fan of Rod Wave's one-dimensional music, but Scrim is much worse in my opinion. Then we had Marzi defeating Yo Old Drook, which I heavily disagree with. Drew could easily out-rap him if it ever came to a battle, and he also makes the better music in my opinion. I also disagree with Fredo Bang being better than King San from the Who Riders, both music and skill-wise. Made in Tokyo winning against Benzino is laughable too, knowing that Tokyo is one of the worst lyricists in history, who fell off artistically and popularity-wise.
They fell off, they went outside.
Benzino is ass too, don't get me wrong, but mainly because of his more recent music.
I'm breaking bread with you, counting money sitting in the bed with you.
Benzino at least battled Eminem and made him respond with half a dozen songs. He even made M publicly apologize after exposing his racist tapes from the early 90s. I highly doubt that Made in Tokyo, the guy who raps and talks in ad-libs, can lyrically defend himself just as well as Benzino against Eminem.
Ooh, they want none of that, mumble rap, old heads really want none of that, yeah, they want none of that.
Okay. I never thought I would see the day where I would defend Benzino. But call me back if Made in Bangladesh can make a diss track on the level of Die Another Day or Pull Your Skirt Up, or all the other tracks that started this whole Eminem is a culture vulture topic. Benzino harmed M more than we give him credit for. Not saying that he won or anything, but M didn't respond with half a dozen diss tracks for nothing. I also disagree with Ritz being worse than Roy Jones Jr., who only had one classic song. Foxy Brown easily better than The Realist, aka the Tupac clone, aka Mr. I got signed by Suge Knight to edit some of Tupac's posthumous songs. Who? Tone Loc easily better than Whack Ass Smoke Perp, but Boogie is not better than Pete Nice from Third Base, I'm sorry. Neither rapping nor catalog wise. The Cactus album is a hip hop classic. Boogie's Everything's for Sale album and all his mixtapes can't compete. But let's continue. Logic definitely better than All Black, and I think Afro is better than J. O'Felny when we talk about lyrics and flows in general. Don't really care for Stunner for Vegas and J.I., they're both trash to me. Big Boy from OutKast easily better than Mo 3. Meek Mill mediocre at best skill wise, but that's more than enough to take out the one-hit wonder YC. Also agree with King Von being better than Josiah, aka the XXXTentacion clone, and with Dr. Dre being better than True Life. Alright, so in round 2 we had Crooked I winning against Depression in person Rod Wave. Mozzie definitely better than Fredo Bang. One Hit Wonder Roy Jones Jr. also better than Made in Tokyo, although you could have picked damn near anybody to take this fool out. Agree with Foxy Brown winning against Tone Loc. Logic, especially early Logic, definitely better than Westside Boogie. Afro, also better than Whack Ass Stunner for Vegas. Big Boy took out Meek Mill with all the classics he made with Andre 3000. And then we have Dr. Dre beating King Von, which is kind of obvious with Dre being the legend that he is. In round 3 we had Crook take out Mozzie, which I definitely agree with as Crook is a beast on the mic. But then you picked One Hit Wonder Roy Jones Jr. over Foxy Brown, which is unexplainable to me. Foxy started off rapping with Jay-Z, and is also a member of the supergroup The Firm with Nas, AZ, Cormega and Nature. All the music she made in the 90s and early 2000s, especially her first album, compare that to the Body Headbangers album with that one hit he had. Skill-wise it's not even debatable, but whatever, let the Boxer win. Logic beating Afro is agreeable when it comes to discography, especially the earlier projects. Afro is far more technical though, especially when it comes to multi-syllabic rhymes. Logic has one of the smallest vocabularies in hip-hop, somewhere between Kodak Black, Kid Cudi and J. Cole. It's rather unlikely for Logic to out-rap Afro in a song, so again, what do you value more, rapping skills or catalog? Dr. Dre being better than Big Boy is again debatable, as both are iconic and highly influential artists in their respective regions. Dr. Dre is of course rapping a little longer than Big Boy, with him being more or less a pioneer on the West Coast, with the world-class Wrecking Crew which formed in '83, and then later with NWA. Straight Outta Compton, still to this day one of the greatest rap albums ever, top 10, maybe top 5. And then he of course has all his solo records which blow away anything Big Boy has ever done during his solo career. Big Boy has no classics aside from all the albums he worked on with Andre, which are of course highly influential and high in quality overall, but better than Straight Outta Compton, The Chronic and 2001? I don't think so. But that's of course personal preference. I love both, but Dr. Dre probably made more songs that are worth being on a top 100 rap songs list. Like for example, Nothing But a G-Thang, Let Me Ride, Dre Day, Still DRE, The Next Episode, Forgot About Dre, Natural Born Killers, Deep Cover, and California Love of course, which was originally Dr. Dre's song, but it ended up on Pac's album after a huge dispute within the Death Row label. Then of course all the classics with NWA, all the albums he produced and jumped on, etc. His voice is also more recognizable in hip-hop, and you can always expect high-quality verses or songs when getting new projects from him. And even today, 38 years after his career started, people still look forward to new Dr. Dre records. Like, we are still waiting for his Detox album to come out. Don't know if people still have the same level of anticipation for a new Big Boy record. And his live shows are all legendary, especially his Up in Smoke tour in the year 2000. Of course, you could argue that Dr. Dre should not be considered top tier due to him having writers. But if we use this argument on Dre, we have to also do it for rappers like Drake and Kanye West, who a lot of people put in their top 5s. Big Boy, on the other hand, was always kind of in the shadow of Andre 3000 and didn't stick out as much in terms of style, his voice, delivery, and Andre overall had the higher recognition value. 95% of the fans always preferred Andre over Big Boy. So, as you can see, you can make arguments on both sides. There is no objective answer to this. But anyway, in the semifinals, King Crooked finally took out Roy Jones Jr. Can't believe that he made it all the way to round 4, which means he's one of the top 128 rappers according to this tournament. And then Dr. Dre took out Logic, which is self-explanatory. In the finals we had Dr. Dre winning against Crook, which is understandable if we're talking about catalog, impact and overall importance to the culture. But Dre most likely can't out-rap Crook on a record. Now, he might have the more enjoyable verse in general, but Crook is a lyricist, and Dre would need a great writer to compete with him. But as we all know, most rappers nowadays have somebody helping out with the lyrics. It's not as much of a taboo as it was in the 90s, for example. In bracket 8 we had Raekwon the Chef from the almighty Wu-Tang clan beating Eazy-E's son Lil Eazy-E, Salt from Salt and Pepper beating Pee-wee Longway, and Cormega taking out Big 30. Completely agree with those picks, but having Big Shaq over Sky Zoo should be punishable. Anyway, Bushwick Bill from the legendary Ghetto Boys took out the Wack MC OG Mako. 50 Cent defeated OMB Peasy and Sean Price got rid of Uno the Activist. I also don't have a problem with G.O.A.T beating Sean J, besides the fact that both of them would be disqualified if I did the ranking myself, knowing that they have no rapping skills at all and are just a waste of space in general.
LL Cool J is hard as hell. Battle anybody, I don't care, you tell.
Travis Scott, even if he makes the same repetitive auto-tune trap music since Rodeo, had much more of a career than reggae hip-hop artist Mad Lion. Impact-wise, I would agree with you and give it to Travis, as he was much more important to the era he came from than Mad Lion. CL Smooth easily better than Angel Hayes, same with G Herbo and Big Scar. Coolio above Tame One from the Artifacts is debatable, as Tame One is the better lyricist, but Coolio wins in terms of discography, impact and basically everything unrelated to technical skills. Skepta easily better than whack-ass Fetty Wap, but I would put Diabolic above Aun, as he's not only the better lyricist in my opinion, but also a battle rapper, aside from all the great music that he's producing. And then we have Freddie Gibbs, who has won against MC Jin, the first Asian American rapper to get signed to a major label in the US. I can agree with this in terms of catalog, but skill-wise it's debatable though. In his prime, MC Jin would probably body Freddie with his superior punchlines and his clever wordplay. But Freddie overall has the better discography that people will remember him for. So, don't have a problem with giving this round to Freddie. In round 2 you picked Raekwon over Salt from Salt and Pepper, which is understandable, but then once again you made Big Shaq eliminate a capable lyricist like Cormega.
2 + 2 is 4, -1 that's 3, quick maths.
Understandable, let's move on. 50 Cent better than Bushwick Bill, Sean Price over G.O.A.T, and LL Cool J over Travis Scott. All factual rankings. G Herbo beating CL Smooth is ridiculous though, as CL Smooth is better in every aspect of rapping, and on top of that he has a better discography overall. Call me back if G Herbo can make an album on the level of Mecca and the Soul Brother, or The Main Ingredient, which are both classics by the way. Coolio took out Skepta, which is totally fine with me as I'm not a fan of his music. Probably because of the accent. And I know I shouldn't complain because my accent is horrible too, but how high can you rank somebody that you don't even want to listen to? I have to admit though, he's probably the more skilled rapper overall. Not top tier, but still. Coolio had a unique style that I enjoyed quite a bit. All his albums in the 90s were dope in my opinion. He also has classic songs like Gangsta's Paradise, See You When You Get There, 1, 2, 3, 4, Gangsta Walk and Fantastic Voyage, which were important for West Coast hip-hop in general. Gangsta's Paradise is up there with the greatest rap songs of all time, but I can't put any of Skepta's songs in the same category. Anyway, in the last matchup of round 2 we had Freddie Gibbs winning against Aon, which I have no problem with. In round 3 we finally got rid of Big Shaq, with Raekwon the Chef advancing to the semi-finals. But 50 Cent over Sean Price is debatable in my opinion, especially when we're talking about rapping skills. Sean Price was a lyrical beast, better than 50 Cent in his prime. I feel like Power of the Dollar was his prime, and after Get Rich or Die Tryin', his pen game worsened. I think Sean P was always superior when it comes to punchlines, slick wordplay and flow in general. But in every other aspect, I would probably give it to 50. Impact, importance, influence, and also discography. Me saying that Sean is superior rapping-wise does not mean that 50 is incapable of defending himself. He battled multiple MCs simultaneously, and probably dissed around 50 rappers in his career in total. And he might be the last MC to hold the title King of New York, before he became a businessman who stopped caring about rap music. But let's move on. LL easily better than G.O.A.T, and Freddie is also better than Coolio in my opinion, although none of his songs come close to Gangsta's Paradise. In the semi-finals you picked 50 Cent over Raekwon, which I definitely disagree with. Lyrically it's not even debatable, and even catalog-wise I would pick all the Wu-Tang joints and Ray's solo material over 50's. I mean, Raekwon has Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, Wu-Tang Forever, and Only Built for Cuban Links, if we're talking about undeniable classics. 50 only has Get Rich or Die Tryin', which comes close to those three. The Massacre was dope too, but the average rap fan doesn't consider it a classic. Both are among my favorites and have released tons of great songs, but I don't think that 50 can mess with Raekwon. Which is ironic because they actually had a beef at one point. But 50 didn't try to add more fuel to the fire after dissing several Wu-Tang members on How to Rob.
I hit the studios, take niggas' shoes and leave. Catch Ray Ghost and RZA for them funny ass rings.
Which made Ray call him out on the Clyde Smith skit of the Supreme Clientele album in the year 2000.
You just fucked up. You fucked up bad. I'ma have about 500 wolves on you.
LL Cool J obviously better than Freddie Gibbs, basically in every aspect. Prime LL would crush Freddie easily. I mean, people say he beat Cannabis and Kool Moe Dee, two rappers who are far superior to Freddie lyrically, and they both had classic diss tracks aimed at LL. You think Freddie can outrhyme Cannabis? I mean, what can he do lyrically that Cannabis hasn't done already? He's a punchline machine, and people still say LL won. He couldn't even take out DJ Academics.
Fuck academics, we the hip hop African Americans.
Or Jeezy. Freddie's discography is a little one-dimensional content-wise if you ask me. I mean, how many albums and mixtapes about selling cocaine can you release? I will answer it for you. 8 albums, 8 EPs and 19 mixtapes. It's mainly cocaine rap with the same exact flow and delivery. LL has classic records about all kinds of topics. He's not just making songs for girls like some people claim. He also has classic rap songs like I Shot Ya, 4321, and Mama Said Knock You Out, that you can find in my best rap songs of all time lists. Freddie can't really compete with that. I mean, which songs would you say come close? Radio, Bigger and Deffer, and G.O.A.T. All classic albums in my opinion. He was basically the one who invented and popularized the term GOAT, greatest of all time. Everybody in hip hop is using it right now. LL basically destroyed Cannabis's and Kool Moe Dee's careers. And he also traded blows with Pac and Jay-Z at one point. So I don't think Freddie would be much of a competition for him in the 80s or the 90s. And if we're strictly talking about impact, influence and importance to the culture, Freddie is a nobody compared to L. Anyway, in the finals you picked 50 over LL, which as you can guess I disagree with heavily. I think I already gave you enough of an explanation on why L is one of the GOATs. 50 does not have the longevity and the same level of impact LL had on the culture, as L was basically the leader of the new school together with Run DMC in the early to mid 80s. And as long as we're not comparing 21st century LL to 50 Cent in his prime, 50 would have probably lost if it ever came to a rap battle between the two. So I personally would have given this round to LL. But of course, this is just my opinion. I respect it if you disagree. And that was it for part 1. Bracket 9 to 16 will be in part 2 of this 5-episode series. See you in the next video.